welcome you to the Intern Whisper. My name is Isabella Johnston. Our show is all about the future of work and innovation. And today's guest is somebody I've known for a while. I've known him through Mary Ann Kilgallen, and you guys all listen to my shows, so you can go back and find her episode. A little shout out for Mary Ann. Anyway, I met him there. His name is Andres Goyanes. Goyanes. And don't think I said it right still.
No, you got
Goyanes.
Goyanes.
Okay. Yes. He is the CEO of Ether Marketing Communications. He has more than 2 decades of experience developing marketing, branding, communications, and public relations strategies. He is also the founder of the Center for Global Alchemy and Cross-Cultural Leadership and is expanding his skills into organizational leadership. All good things because they all tie very nicely with marketing. Marketing and HR are very similar. So, Andreas, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I know we talked about this probably a year and a half ago when I found out that you were pursuing a PhD. So we're going to get to talk about that in a minute. But I kicked my show off by asking my guests, tell us about yourself using only 5 words. And your first word that you had picked off the air was creative. So why creative?
Creativity is such an innate thing in me. I always find a way around or through any of the obstacles that I come across. And in the field of marketing, creativity goes a long way because, again, it helps you stay on your toes, but it also helps you stay a couple steps ahead of your clients. After all, the reason they hire me is to have some help in figuring out what to do next. So creativity is, I think, one of the most essential skills. Now, not everyone develops it or has it in an innate way, but I think everyone can develop it. I often joke with my wife. She says, I don't have creativity. I'm like, you do. It's just that you manifest it in a different way. So again, we all have it, but I think in my case, I tend to have, it's very keen and it's very developed, perhaps because of my career.
Yeah, I think so. And just like riding a bike, I think it's something that you get better at, right? The more you practice it.
You do.
Yeah.
You do. You learn from your failures. You certainly do better with your successes. You keep building on a foundation, and then you end up having creativity that seems to come out in the spur of a moment.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. So the second word you selected is diligent. Why diligent?
When you work as a consultant, the name of the game is that you have to deliver. And if you're not diligent as you're engaging the opportunities, not just for yourself, but for your clients, you're going to fall behind. So being diligent goes also a long way. And it certainly becomes an opportunity to really be looking forward rather than looking backwards. And if I'm driving any type of strategy or any type of tactics that we're developing for a client, sure, I keep in mind what we've done in the past, but I have to continuously be looking forward and be diligent to make sure that nothing fails and we don't go through any hiccups.
Oh, you know what? That really spoke to me just now, because that's something as an entrepreneur, I know that I have, we go up and down, right, in emotions. And so right now in April, I was in a downward spiral and I could feel myself spiraling. And it's so hard to just remember to stay diligent, keep those eyes, for me, it's like keep my eyes on the cross. And then I know which way I'm always supposed to go, meaning
Absolutely.
go Jesus. I'm a Jesus girl. So third word, lifelong learner. Lots of alliteration there.
Yes. That means that you're never satisfied with what you know, and you're always seeking to see what else can I learn. One of the things my wife and I do every year, at the end of the year, we create our list of things we want to learn.
Oh.
And it goes down a list. Sometimes we have 3 or 4 things. Sometimes we have more than that. We try to learn something new, whether it's a new dish, if it comes down to, cooking, but sometimes it's about getting either a certificate or getting some kind of, skill, earning, that can help us earn either more money or help us enhance our current career. And it has become sort of a game that we enjoy playing. And it really keeps you on your toes when you're trying to build up, again, the career that you want. No one's going to do it for you. So if you don't, again, if you're not diligent and you're not creative, then that really builds up into the effort to become a lifelong learning. And at the end of the day, we all can learn something new. The joke that you cannot teach an old dog new tricks is just a saying, because everyone learns something new all the time.
Yeah.
You just have to have an open mind and a willingness to explore.
Yep, I agree with you. I find that one of the things I like to do is I serve in the children's ministry at my church, and I like to work with 3 and 4 year olds because there I get to play, and I find that very liberating. And they're also incredibly honest. You know,
They are. They're children.
what is this on your face? You know, like why? You know, they want to understand everything, just like grown-ups. So I think that children, animals, I think they can teach you things too. So you just, I believe, have to be really dialed into the world and what's going on around you, right?
Absolutely. We're parents to 3 dogs, and each of them has a different personality. And they teach us so much about ourselves, especially when it comes down to interacting with us and the love that they give us. And we sometimes wonder, why can't people be more like dogs or any other animal that, has kindness in them?
What kind of breed do you like? Do you have a particular one?
We do like Yorkies.
Oh, okay.
So we have a Yorkie and 2 Morkies, which are Maltese Yorkie mix.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But the pure Yorkie, she's the boss. We just pay the mortgage.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. Okay, that's pretty funny. Our next word is daring. Why daring?
Daring is a powerful word in my career trajectory. I became an entrepreneur not because I was setting my mind to become one, but rather because of accidental happenstance. Working for a company in 2008, I was laid off. And at that point, I said, what can I do? Everyone was losing their jobs in the marketing field. And I decided to go on LinkedIn. I started being daring. I asked people not for a job, but for basically the crumbs. Do you have any projects left over? Throw me a bone, please. Do you have anything that hasn't been finished? I have all these years of marketing experience and I can get it done. And so that was pretty daring because, again, most people were just sitting at home waiting for unemployment. And I said, I cannot go from 6 figures to making unemployment and still expect to survive. I was starting to date my wife. Back then she was my girlfriend, and said, I could see that things were going to go in a positive way, and said, I need to do something with my professional life. So I was very daring, and I decided to start consulting. So much so that someone did get back to me, a good friend, and she said, I can get you a ticket to LA. You can come pitch at a company where I work. They need to do marketing to the Hispanic community. They don't know the difference between a Puerto Rican, a Cuban, and a Mexican. And I think you can help. And that's essentially how I got started. I took the opportunity. I flew over there and I met with them one day. The next day, I assembled a contract or an agreement. I call it a Frankenstein agreement, assembling little pieces from different. I'm not a lawyer, so again, I had to do the best I could do with what I had. And on the third day, I pitched them the idea. And guess what? They said on the way out, just pick up your first check from accounting. And that's how I got started. So that's the meaning of daring for me. You have to sometimes be willing to dare yourself to do something that you would not otherwise have done.
I love that story. That's very inspirational.
And if I can add to that story, I created a company name that they wrote a check to, but it still did not have a company name. So when I got here to Florida, that first thing I did is I jumped on somebiz.org, hoping that no one else had the name. Yeah. And that's how I created the company. Well, luckily, no one else had it. So I was able to create it and get my, all the different credentials I needed to deposit the check. Yeah. Well, you can always do a DBA. You can. But at that point, it was just me. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Well, good. I'm glad that you were very, very strategic with that too. The last word on your list is global minded. Why that? That is the whole reason why I'm pursuing my global leadership doctoral degree. I have been traveling ever since I was a year old. My parents, took me and my sister later on pretty much all over the world. I have been all over Europe. I've even been to Ukraine 20 years ago. I spent just over a couple of weeks before all of this nonsense that's been going on right now. Travel all over the Caribbean, North America, Central America, South America. And the more I see, the more I want to really explore. And being global minded, I think it's aligned with the way that we do business these days. We now have multicultural teams, people who work from, I've worked with companies that have a team in India and in Bangladesh, then they have another team in Argentina or Colombia. And one of the biggest challenges companies have is that they want to measure everything according to what I call the American measuring stick. And if you're not global minded and you don't develop that cultural intelligence, it's going to be very difficult to manage teams that have different religions, different cultures, different perspectives of life.
I think that's very true. That's where, we're big into inclusion and feeling like people belong, right? And diversity. So they'll think about diversity in the typical ways of race, ethnicity, but they don't think about the things that come with that are more internal, like culture, like what foods do people eat? And you and I both work with internationals. I know I do. And we work with the ones from Valencia College. That's something we have in common. And I've asked the students, what is something that you think an American employer can do to help you feel like you're part of that company? That said, just learn a word, like hello, or let's eat something that I eat from my country. And then they also had some other suggestions as to like, it's okay to ask me questions, about my culture and just be okay with it. And if I say something incorrectly, don't worry, you can correct me. I mean, those are all really kind things to say, right?
Absolutely. And that's when you're demonstrating cultural intelligence, which
Yeah.
is your ability to manage through novel situations without having to be an expert at a particular culture.
Yeah, I love that. So that's your dissertation topic you mentioned.
My dissertation topic is actually in focus on Rotary's four-way test, which is an ethical decision-making framework, and how it compares between, I'm going to have a sample of participants in the US and another sample in Spain. Why is that? Because ethics are not universal.
Yeah.
Ethics are influenced by so many different things. And what seems to be right in one place, it may not be right. In some parts of the world, grease payments and giving bribes, it's perfectly normal. And, countries like Russia and even the Middle Eastern countries, they take that as it's a normal thing. But here in the United States, it's illegal. And so again, you have to understand that ethics at its most basic have to be compared according to the culture. So my dissertation is going to focus on those differences, and I'm in the final stretch. So hopefully I'll have something else to report for you near the end of this year.
So are you doing a qualitative study?
I am doing qualitative. I wanted to do mixed methods, but I was told don't get yourself into trying to do two dissertations at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So I was discouraged from doing mixed methods by my chair, my dissertation chair. So it is qualitative.
Very nice. I can't wait to read it. I'm all but dissertation on mine, so I'm very excited. I like your topic also. I really do. Where are you going for your PhD?
At Troy University in Alabama.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're doing it distance.
I am doing it distance, but we do have a requirement to go to campus once a year. We usually go for what's called an immersion weekend, and we also do practicums. As a matter of fact, I already took care of my practicum. It was in London, in the UK, and it was an amazing experience. We actually got to meet with Lloyd's of London, and they gave us a tour of the building and everything they do. But also we went to a number of different universities, including Oxford, to, again, get lectures and get all kinds of intercultural experiences so we could understand better how they do things in the UK, which can be very different.
So question, do they build that into the tuition, those trips?
No, it's not built. And so we have a different one. It is required that you go to one, but they do have a different one every year. First year that when I did it was in London. The next year was in South Africa. I believe they're going to have another one in Central or South America coming up soon. I'm in my fourth year, so they didn't do one the first year because it was 2021 and we were still getting out of the pandemic. But it is not built into it. It has to be self-funded, but they do let you know in advance that you will have to do this so people can plan ahead. And we do get a stipend from the university. I think it's about $1,250, which certainly helps with things like the airfare.
Yeah. And if you plan that ticket ahead, I'm sure you can get it for a better discount. Or if you know people that can give you
Absolutely. Absolutely.
you know people. That's the key word. You know
Now, who
people.
know, you know is who knows you.
Yeah, both, right?
Both really.
For real. Yeah. Well, those were really great words. I'm really excited about that. So now we're going to go into this second section where it's how did you get started? Where, you shared where you are for your PhD, but where did you go to school? How did you get to where you are now? You said 2 decades. That's like, a good
It's a
amount of
lot.
years. That's a lot of wisdom.
It is. It is. It's I have to tell successes and failures both contribute to the same goal:
Mm-hmm.
wisdom and experience. So let's see how I'm going to try to frame it in a way that it makes sense and it's quicker. I was born in Puerto Rico. I grew up in Spain, and then I came to the U.S. to spend my last 2 years of high school at a military boarding school. At that time, I thought I wanted to be a pilot. And so I went to school at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Daytona Beach. I was an aerospace engineering major. And in my last year, I decided that I did not want to be an engineer. I learned the ropes of business with my father, who had retired after a successful career, but then he started importing tile, marble, and granite from Spain and from Italy. And I learned that one day of business can sometimes be better than a month or a year of salary. Mm-hmm. So I decided to switch to marketing at UCF, and I earned my undergraduate degree there. I then waited about 10 years and then got my MBA. And I got an MBA with a concentration in sustainability and green development from Merrillhurst University out in the West Coast in Oregon. And then put another 10 years in between that, and I decided to start my PhD. Right about the time when the pandemic hit and we had the lockdown, I was teaching at University of Phoenix. They had a campus here in Orlando, but they let go everyone around that time and said, we're only going to keep certain people, and if you have a PhD, your chances of staying around are going to be higher. So somewhere in my mind, I said, you know what? I think if there was ever a time when I needed to get my PhD, this would be it. And so I applied to only one school. Most of my friends who have applied, they applied to 3 or 4, expecting to be rejected by all of them, or at least get accepted by one. I said, I'm going to go for the one that I want. And if they accept me, I'm going to go for it. And guess what? I got the call. They said, you're in.
Very nice.
And so that's how I embarked in this journey, lifelong journey of learning. Right now, as I look back at the last 4 years, I think I've been a better student as a PhD student. Now I'm a PhD candidate, having completed all of the requirements. And so I find myself saying it was so well worth it, because you give up a lot when you're studying.
Yep.
Especially PhD, you have so many demands. Your papers are not 1,000 words. They're 6,000, 8,000 words. You have to cite pretty much every sentence.
Yep.
And you have to be very accurate, and you have to be certainly always forward thinking, because the whole point of earning a PhD is to create new knowledge. Mm-hmm. So my life has shown me the direction. The good Lord said, this is what I think you should follow. And I trusted and was daring, and here I am.
Yeah. That's a good story too. Okay. So what made you decide to launch into a business? I know you touched on it because
I got laid off in 2008. The Great Recession hit, and
you had to win a woman.
I had to make sure that I was prepared to actually take care of her.
Yeah.
And so, when life gives you lemons, you know how that goes. I made the best lemonade I could make. And that's where the daring part came, as I mentioned before. I decided that I had enough people on LinkedIn that I could ask for someone to help me out with a contract. Why a contract, or why freelancing? It's a lot less emotional than asking for a job. When you ask someone for a job, you're asking them to pretty much take care of everything for you, because again, there's also legal. I mean, everything's, you still have to be accountable, but there's still a need for you to be aware that the commitment is there, and you have to exchange knowledge for payment.
Right.
So in my case, I chose to be daring. I said, if I can make it, or if anyone can make it, it should be me. Why have I been connecting with so many people for the last, 7 years before that, since I joined LinkedIn? And it paid off. And so I'm a big proponent of networking, but also of connecting with people after having meaningful conversations, because once again, that's what builds up your network.
So, how did you decide on the topic for the dissertation? Was it because you started that organization on cultural?
No, so being a member of Rotary, I've been in Rotary now
Rotary.
17 years. And last year, I had the honor of serving as district governor for Rotary, which is pretty much the person who runs the entire district for a period of 1 year. However, it's a commitment that started 3 years before, and then it also comes with a year after as immediate past district governor. This organization, Rotary, has allowed me to meet people from all over the world, all religions, all cultural backgrounds.
I did not know that. To put a pin there, Rotary is a global organization?
Rotary is a global organization. It started in
Interesting.
1905 by a gentleman named Paul Harris. He was a lawyer in Chicago who had just moved into town and did not know where to go to actually network with people. So he found 3 other men and said, you know what, we're going to rotate our meeting. That's where the name Rotary comes from. We're going to rotate our meeting from one office to the other. And that was back then, 1905. And today, 2024, we have 1.4 million members in over 200 countries. There are over 46,000 Rotary clubs worldwide. And right now, as I'm speaking here, they have their conference, international conference going on in Singapore. Next year will be in Calgary. So every year they have a different convention. And that's where you come across all kinds of people. And it's such a wonderful thing to be able to meet someone who may not speak your language, but they're so passionate about giving and helping the community like Rotary does. And by the way, Rotary is the big push behind the eradication of polio. Now for over 30 years, Rotary has been building up this campaign. And again, we fundraise to generate funds to basically provide children all over the world. There's 2 countries left, Pakistan and Afghanistan. They have still a handful of polio cases. And we have the biggest Rotarian of them all, Bill Gates, has been helping us for several years now. For every dollar we raise against polio, he gives us 2. So every dollar raised becomes 3. And so it's a wonderful organization. At a local level, we take care of everything. Like Rotary Club of International Drive, we buy and gift dictionaries for Tangelo Park Elementary School and near Sand Lake Road. And in other cases, we just volunteer at other organizations and we provide the muscle. Like a couple of weeks ago, we went to the Salvation Army. We made sandwiches and then they took us in their buses. We went to some underserved communities and we handed sandwiches and clothing donations to them. So it's all about giving. It's about being servant leaders.
Very nice. So what is the age group that you've seen at these? Because I know there's Elks and Shriners and Moose and then Rotarians. I'm curious, do you see that it's a specific generation that's still active in it, or
I'm going to say 30 to 60 years of age is the bulk of them.
really 30-year-olds?
30-year-olds. Rotary made a decision about 10 years ago to rebrand and change a lot of its messaging, which has attracted a lot of younger people. We also have the Rotaract clubs. These are all over the world as well, and they are usually based out of colleges, although some are community-based. And so we're building up a new generation of people who want to do good for their community. And once they hit 30 years of age, typically that's when they join a Rotary club. But we are probably younger than most of the other service organizations out there, Lions, Kiwanis, Optimist, and so on.
That's interesting. I did not know that. Is it open to women or is it only men?
It is open to women. It has been open to women since 1987 when there was actually a challenge by a lady in California. She challenged the Rotary and they took this to the Supreme Court. And at the Supreme Court, they basically said, no, women are allowed. And ever since then, about 30% of Rotary, some say even 35% are now women. Wow. And I think it's going to continue growing. I got to serve as district governor with the first woman to be Rotary International president at a global level, Jennifer Jones. And it was a delight to work with her. But curiously enough, this coming year, we're going to have the second woman. So we had men for 116, 117 years. And now I can see in the future it's going to alternate. And at some points, it may be 2 or 3 women in a row. So again, Rotary did start as a men-only club. but has since evolved, and it's such a wonderful opportunity. My wife is also a Rotarian. She has been a president of our Rotary Club of International Drive.
So you go to the same one together?
We go to the same one together.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, that's interesting. I figured you were the historian because you're listing off dates and years, and I'm going, wow, he must be the person that's in charge of that, or membership and historian.
I really enjoy the organization, and I try to share with many people about it. And by giving them that context, I think they understand that it's not something that came up recently,
Yeah.
but it has been an evolving, like anything else, all organizations have to evolve or they will die.
So true. So true. So that dismisses a lot of myths that, oh, it's just men that are there. And I'm really glad to hear that, allowing women in is something that is an expanded mindset for sure.
Our club is actually more women than men. And
Really?
as a matter of fact, our current president and the next president are going to be women. So
very interesting. It's all different professions. I have a lot of questions
Yes.
because nobody normally comes in and talks about this. So this will be my last question because I definitely want to go to some other stuff that you had mentioned. But dues, how much are the dues? And then when people join, is it good for a year or what? All different professions,
So
right?
there's a protocol. You have to visit you have to first be invited to Rotary.
Okay.
Okay. Then you have to visit 3 times.
Okay.
So that they can actually hand you an application, because they figure that if you come in a second and a third time, you enjoy being there.
Yeah.
Every club is different. Some clubs, like a country, they have their own culture.
Yeah.
Our club likes to get together on Wednesday evenings, and we like to have a pint or a glass of wine with dinner. And we call it, we're very much like an Italian dinner. Most Rotary clubs will ring the bell at the beginning of the hour, and they'll ring the bell again. Our bell rings usually 3 hours after, because we just stay there talking and enjoying each other's company. So the dues vary. Some clubs will include the meals. Some clubs will not. In our club, it's just $100 per quarter, but we want a commitment of 1 year. And then they pay for their own meals. In other clubs, there's Dr. Phillips or Rotary Club of Lake Buena Vista. I believe they include their fees into their, in the actual food into it, because they have a commitment to a restaurant where they have to, again, do that commitment, whether people show up or not.
Yeah.
And in a way, kind of forces people to show up because you already paid for it.
Yeah.
But again, it's the commitment essentially is that. However, there are a number of other things people will do to commit and fundraise. Most people will donate at least $100 every year, and we have something called Every Rotarian Every Year, E-Ray. And if you actually donate that kind of money, it counts towards earning a Paul Harris Fellow badge. Once you reach $1,000, you get a very nice pin and recognition. And most Rotarians are motivated by that. And there's other levels. My wife and I are Bequest Society members. So, a part of our estate is actually pledged, in the future. So everyone gives whatever they can, and we do fundraise for polio. The polio fundraising, because every dollar becomes 3 through the Bill Melinda Gates Foundation. I think they're finally dropping Melinda, but I believe Bill Gates is going to continue contributing. And this is going to help us greatly in eradicating polio worldwide.
Oh, so cool. All right, so we're going to jump into another topic that I know that you and I had discussed. We have a lot of crossover, you and I. So we talk about coaching now. It is expected to experience tremendous growth. The U.S. life coaching market is expected to grow at 4.85% from 23 to 2030 and reach $2.1 billion. That is amazing.
A lot of money to be made.
Yeah.
But a lot of benefit for the people who are seeking these types of services.
Yeah. And I know you just got DISC certified. So tell my listeners what DISC means.
Absolutely. DISC is a personality assessment.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually created by Dr. William Morrison, who was a psychologist. And curiously enough, he was also one of the people who first created an early prototype of the lie detector. But he's also the creator of Wonder Woman. Again, a little known fact that people don't know. DISC stands for dominance, influence, steadfast or steadiness, and conscientiousness. These 4 dimensions of personality, we all have them. but some have more than others. And so in my case, I am an ID. I'm an influential dominant person. My wife, she's a CS, a conscientious steadiness person. So curiously enough, opposites attract. And so with this, you can learn how to communicate better with individuals of a different profile, as well as understand yourself better.
Mm-hmm.
I have worked with small boards and groups that get tested for, again, to learn their DISC assessment. And one of the most common things that I hear is, I thought there was something wrong with me, and now I know that there isn't one thing wrong. This is who I am, and there are other people like me.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is very refreshing, because that means that I am helping people in a non-clinical way become better, become healthier, become more confident, because they know that, again, they're not different, and that there are other people who share the same traits. This essentially will help someone in a team know how they fit and how to communicate also easier and better with other people. People in the D or the I, we tend to be very direct. People who are in the C and the S, they may go around the subject because they don't want to really
Conflict.
they don't like conflict. They don't like change. So it drives a lot of our personality, and by understanding it, I think it gives us superpowers. So I think William Marston was right to create the Wonder Woman, because in a way, he knew that people do have superpowers, and he has helped so many people become aware of who they are and what they can become.
So I have been doing this one question, and because you said Wonder Woman, I went, oh, I'm going to bring it back for you. So you'll like this one. In an article that was published in 2023, researchers at Martin Luther University, the University of Bamberg, and the Ohio State University recently published a meta-analysis which looked at data from close to 130 experiments that explored power posing. And what that means is that, well, they looked at 10,000 participants. The objective was to find out whether consciously deciding to have a certain posture can influence a person's confidence, behavior, and their hormone levels. So it's when you assume Wonder Woman. You have to stand up. Your hands are,
Yes.
I'm over here, and I'm sorry, I'm like not near my microphone. So you got your hands in a fist, they're on your hips, you're looking up, your shoulders are back, your feet are slightly apart, and you're looking up like Wonder Woman or Superman. Anyway, when this was something I had seen on Grey's Anatomy, and they were talking about this, and I went, is this real? Are they making this up? And so I go and look it up, and I go, no, this is legit.
It is legit. There's actually a science behind the way that we
It
stand.
does.
Typically, when I'm speaking in front of groups of people, I will stand up, kind of form, I have to have a very stable stance, and I will put my hands together near what the Asians call the shin, the center of your body. It is a very powerful and stable pose, because it actually allows you to take in, and even if someone's bringing you trouble or a bad question, it allows you to remain calm, and therefore it projects in a whole different way. Now, some people will like to put their hands behind their back. When they do that, somewhere in the back of our minds, we think that the person is hiding something. They're not confident. So there is a psychological and physiological connection between.
Yeah, the benefit is huge.
It is huge.
I know that when I do that, when I sit here and I put my shoulders back and I'm standing in that pose, I go, gosh, I feel strong. I feel fearless. I feel like I can do anything. And I went, this is real.
Absolutely. You are your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah.
We live in a world where getting an attaboy or getting a pat in the back is not normal. So who else but you to actually bring yourself up? At the end of the day, that's the way it should be. And this is why things like mental health have been such a big issue, because some people lose confidence, and that loss of confidence leads on to depression. So there are ways that we can counter that. And, that's really the realm where psychology and organizational leadership kind of cross into each other.
Yes, it's all very powerful. So we're going to take a moment and acknowledge our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and we will be right back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we're back to the second half of our show. Our guest is Andres Goyanes. Did it right.
You got
Yay,
it.
me. Okay. So it must have been the power pose. So, anyway, we have been talking about all kinds of great things that are about leadership, about Rotary. I did not know. And I learned so much. So, I am really thrilled to be looking at this other section. But there's one question I always ask. I'm going to go back to this one. What would you want to be remembered for in your life?
I believe I would like to be remembered for helping other people become the best version of themselves. And I say that with full knowledge that I spent many years trying to figure out what is my purpose in this earth. Why did God give me certain skills or certain ways to do things that make me unique or make me, I'm going to call myself special to myself, right?
Mhm.
I'm going to build myself up because no one else will if it's not me. And so, as I look forward, I also have to look backwards and think of all the people that I have helped over the years. I have helped friends who lost their jobs, and the first person they called was me. They said, Andres, I saw that when you got laid off, so many years ago, you were able to pick yourself back up. I need to know how to do it. Just this morning, I actually met with a good friend who used to work with my wife and I many years ago, and she's starting her own business. And I shared with her a lot of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
But she also said, you know what? I find it encouraging that you got over all of these things. And I think I can now be a better person or be more effective because I spoke with you. So I try to make every person that I come across, I try to build them up, starting with my wife. We do this for each other. We are constantly building up. We celebrate our successes. Whenever we have a failure, we acknowledge what it is. We try to learn from it. And when it comes to friends and even clients, I tell them, sometimes communication is the best way for you to really get it off your chest and then ask someone else what they think, because most people will look at things from an emotional perspective. And there's a spectrum, a clearly defined spectrum where you have emotion and rationality at the other end. So I try to meet them halfway so they decrease the emotional side, and I try to be, rational, but still help them understand how they can become better people. And that's why professional development has been something that I found it to be my calling. And as an adjunct professor at Valencia College, as well as doing disc training and facilitation, I think that I have found my mojo.
Yeah. Well, I think that ties into also marketing, quite frankly, because marketing is about being able to spin something and make it, fresh and renewed. And that's what we have to do in ourselves.
Absolutely.
That's what you're doing.
Absolutely. I tell everyone, marketing is all about pulling out from, when I work with a client, I need to know what are the features of either their brand or company or their product or even service. Okay, so we have the features. Now we look at the benefits, we look at the advantages, and then we look at the value. Those are the 4 dimensions that I can always break anything down. I can market anything in this world as long as I'm able to draw, again, from those 4 dimensions: features, benefits, advantages, and value.
I like that. I'm writing that one down too.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat 5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat 5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat 5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat 5 Studios.
What do you think the future of 2030 is going to look like? Think about it from a world. What will it look like in the world? What would it look like in the industry? And you're going to pick coaching, I think, and then potential jobs. What do you think? We already know coaching is going to be going crazy.
Coaching is going to be, and I will make a clarification about coaching. Coaching should not be considered only to be a one-on-one thing. I truly enjoy doing team coaching, organizational coaching, because what it does is that it brings in the individuality, but then people have to work with each other. And so what does the future hold for us from a coaching perspective? We need to learn to work better with each other, particularly as our society and business world becomes more intercultural. We live in a time where we also have pretty much all the main four generations that are working.
Five.
From baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, and Gen
Gen
Zs,
Z and Gen Alpha.
and Gen Alpha that now is coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and people are working longer than ever before. So that means that we may end up with 5 or even 6 generations.
Yeah, because the silent generation is, one back, and there's a few of them out there.
There's a few of them.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the ones that have the millions of dollars are the ones that are there.
They're still running.
Yeah.
But you still come across people who are, and by the way, that's a great topic for you to touch on, because I am very big on a topic commonly known as ageism, where you have many people who in other countries, once they reach the age of 40, 45, they are no longer seen as people of value. Here in the US, I think one of the most wonderful things that you still see people either self-employed or working somewhere. They can work part-time and they have a purpose, and they have also their own sense of purpose, not just for the company that they work for, but for themselves. And so I think in the future, coaching will deal more with the multi-generational dynamics, as well as multicultural, and last but not least, emotional dynamics. Again, it's an opportunity to build teams based on multiple dimensions so they can all work better and produce together.
I'm going to push back on something. I think that when you say over 40, I think people over 40 are still okay. But I know that's one of the protected classes according to
Yes.
our U.S. Government. So what I do see is that it doesn't impact men as much as it does women. Once you hit 45, 50, women become more invisible to the world. And that is ageism. And then you're dealing with a gender issue. And it impacts women so much because, what people in the world will say, oh, look at that man. He looks amazing, because he's older and he has a little bit of gray and what, but they don't think that about women. And that is sad to me. And I know that's true because I have so many friends that say that, and they say it even when they hit 40. They're feeling that they are not seen, that they're not valued. And I think that's one of the reasons why women start their own businesses, is because they reinvent themselves so they can get out there and be able to make a difference. Where
it makes perfect sense. And yes, it is a compounding problem that then is not just the age, it could be gender, it could be so many other things, even skill sets.
Yeah.
To kind of bring into the mix AI. So everyone thinks that AI is going to take away all of our jobs. I think what's important is that for people who may be over a certain age, whatever age that may be, that to start learning about AI, learn how to use it, how to garner it, so that they can work with it instead of working against it. And so there's much opportunity. We just need to educate people and their organizations too.
I agree. So staying active, keeping yourself engaged, and cultural events, certainly. There's a lot of things that people can do, but some people will say, no, I'm ready to retire. I don't want to do that. And I think that's sad, honestly, because there's so much in the world, and they're not going to know how to run their phone at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
If they don't keep on top of it.
Absolutely. And I think we all have gone through this, where we used to have only 2 buttons or maybe 4: volume up, volume down, channel up, channel down. And maybe the 5th one was the on off on a remote. Now we get a remote control, and some of them have digital interfaces. I mean, so the world is going to become more and more complex.
Yeah.
Even though that technology is really trying to simplify our lives.
Yeah. Well, and it does for some people, but that's where voice activation comes into play. And that leads really nicely into the question of what do you think is the positive and the negative impact? We can go with AI because you opened that door for sure, but we can talk about augmented reality, virtual reality. Before we were even doing the show, you were touching on that in a conversation, and robots. And robots are all around us, from the one that sweeps your floor to the ones that are the Boston robots that jump off of boxes.
Boston Dynamics, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Well, just earlier today, I saw a report that this was really a little bit of a shock. They used, the Boston Dynamics dog.
Yeah.
So they have one similar to it in China, and they had a machine gun on top of it.
I saw it.
And, it's sad that we've gotten to this point. I think we need to have more awareness. So the positive is that technology is here to stay. We're going to need it. We're going to have to use it, and it's going to make our lives easier. AI will certainly, I can foresee AI will cure cancer, diabetes, many more diseases. It will solve many problems that we are unable. It's going to take essentially a compounding, an aggregate amount of knowledge, multi-generational knowledge, and it's going to sort it out and hopefully find the keys to unlocking these solutions. But at the same time, if we don't learn how to manage them, one thing is for someone to say, I don't want to deal with it. I'm retiring, so I don't want to deal with anything technology-wise. But we need to, because if there's no public awareness of what technology can do for us, we cannot regulate it. And that's when things are going to go haywire. And we're going to see then someone take control, kind of like Cyberdyne Systems in Terminator. The moment that we actually put our hands back and say, you know what, technology, go ahead and take care of it, we're giving it carte blanche to start doing things on our behalf.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes we do that because we don't even read the terms and conditions, and we should.
Most people just scroll down, it's at EULA. They don't even know what, end user license agreement. They don't even know what it means, but there's like, let me get through the EULA and get to the accept. Well, what are you accepting?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a Black Mirror episode where, you just gave your whole voice, your physical appearance, everything over to somebody else to run your life and make it look like it's you. Yeah, totally. And I am guilty of not always reading those terms and conditions. I have started doing it, but never mind. That's a whole nother thing. Okay. Ethical dilemmas. Well, you touched on that, so I think we're good with that one. What is the best mentoring advice that you want to pass on to our listeners about the future?
There's so much. I learned so much from not just my dad, who was an entrepreneur himself. He's now retired. He retired at 51. I'm 52, so I know he did things a little bit better perhaps than me. But I think one of the things I learned from my dad as an entrepreneur, he said, when you own your own business, you drop the plate of food you're eating from to take care of business. That has always stayed with me. But he also always says there's no better word than the one that has yet to be said, which means that you have to think and be mindful of what you speak, because words have meaning and have power. And it could actually bring trouble, or it can soothe someone. Those I can apply them in personal and professional life all day long.
Yeah, I like both of those quotes, quite frankly. Your dad sounds like a really wise guy. Yeah. How can our listeners contact you? We usually give your website and your LinkedIn profile. Is there anything else that you want to share? I do not recommend giving your email address out.
No, but they can get in contact with me. Again, LinkedIn, my name is Andres Goyanes, Andres Goyanes. If you go on LinkedIn, you will find me there. You can also go to ethermarketing.com, AETHER marketing.com, or ether, AETHERAD for ad.com. Both get you to the website. But again, LinkedIn, I think is is the easiest way to get into contact with me and to reach out. And certainly if someone's going to reach out, please let me know that you were actually listening to me in this podcast.
Oh, yeah. And we invite you to leave comments, because we always encourage our guests to leave comments, to share, to tag people. This is one of the things, you don't know this, but we have a contest at the end of the year and go, who are the ones that had the most episodes? So it's usually January through first 2 weeks of December. And anybody's show, we make an announcement in December to make it fair to everybody. So start voting, and whoever has the most, that carries over into a second and a third year where the top 3 are recognized. They end up getting like more than 1,000 downloads the first year, and the second year it continues to double, and then the third year it still is doubling.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah. So my show is listened to globally, just as an incentive. Yes, I figured you'd like that. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the show.
Thank you.
This has been something long coming, and I'm so glad it was later, because now you had a lot of updates because you're almost finished with that dissertation.
The good Lord knew that this was the right time for us to connecting here, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Isabella.
Yo, my pleasure. Thank you to our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios, and thank you to our video production and editing team, Erica Ullman, Gavin Staley, and Inhar Fabrija. Music is by Sophie Lloyd. The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Employers for Change, helping hiring teams to recruit and upskill their intern talent and employees. Learn more at www.e4c.tech and become a member to reduce hiring bias and improve your company culture through Head and Heart Smart recruitment and learning. Subscribe to the Intern Whisperer today and show your support by sharing our show, tagging a friend to listen, and leaving us comments. You can find the Intern Whisperer podcast on Employers for Change YouTube channel or streaming from your favorite podcast channel.